Thank you, everybody, for being here. How many have been having a good time, learning some good stuff, having some good conversation? I'm so excited about this new partnership that is going to be happening with U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce and also NABOP. It is a great thing. And today we have been navigating the corridors of power, voice, and legacy, diving into some deep, transformative conversations. But before we continue to ride this wave of conversations that we've been having, I want to pause for a second and again just also call out the sponsors for this event: Procter & Gamble, T-Mobile, Nielsen, AARP, GM, Toyota, Dentsu. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, as we are about to rewind and play back 5 decades of hip-hop beats, bars, and brilliance, and remembering and talking with the iconic MC Lyte, who, in her own words, and I agree, she said, "I'm the dopest female that you ever heard of thus far." Let's give her a clap for that. She's going to reminisce with us, but guiding this nostalgic ride through hip-hop's hallowed halls is a man deeply rooted in radio, culture, humor. He's an amazing comedian and actor. He's also a Birmingham, Alabama boy. Now, I don't think he was there for the brawl, but I'm sure if he was, he would have got down just a little bit. But I want to present to you Mr. Roy Wood Jr., and I also want to add one caveat to that, because we have a special connection, and it is because his father, you always got to pay tribute to the people who brought you here. His father, Roy Wood Sr., co-founded the National Black Network, laying the bricks of what would become the powerful edifice known as American Urban Radio Network. So I'm glad about that connection. Mr. Roy Wood Jr., please come on the stage.
She hit him with the Nora. She gave y'all my government name, the whole thing. How we doing tonight? Are y'all good? Good. How we doing, owners? How we doing, owners? We good? Staying strong in this PPM universe? All right, we're gonna have a good time today, and then tomorrow we're gonna meet with the consultants. They're gonna tell us what we did wrong. Okay, yeah, some of y'all, yeah, that's the talent who laughed at that. Yeah, we noticed people punched out when you touched your left leg. But it's a pleasure to be here. The power of radio is why we're here, and I know in some of the earlier panels we talked about why radio still matters and why radio is as important now as it's ever been. Myself, I started at a small radio station, a black-owned radio station, which I'm sure, like most people in this room, it was a black-owned station. They gave you your first opportunity. It was a black person in that room who gave you your first opportunities. And for me, it was in Tallahassee at WVHT Hot 105.7, now defunct, but at the time was one of the newer hip-hop stations in Tallahassee. You know, we were very irresponsible. This is before the Janet Jackson nipple incident, so we was very reckless on the air. A couple of cuss words didn't get bleeped on those prank phone calls. Amen, amen. But it was Van Wilson who gave me that first opportunity. His father was one of my journalism professors at FAMU, Roosevelt Wilson. And Mr. Wilson suggested that I go over to Van. And I went to Van Wilson. I said, "Hey, I noticed in the mornings you don't have anyone doing news. Do you mind if I ride my bike to this radio station at 6 o'clock in the morning and pull you 2 locals, 1 national, and a kicker?" And Mr. Wilson said yes, and what I was able to do with him ended up being the air check that got me hired in Birmingham at Cox Radio, that just so happened to time up perfectly when a gentleman named Ricky Smiley was leaving Birmingham to go to Dallas to start what would become the syndicated powerhouse that we know today. So, and even within that construct, it was Ricky Smiley who helped to give a vouch to get me in the door in Birmingham at WBHJ 95.7 Jams. But it's my pleasure. We've talked about radio from the executive level. We've done analytics all day today, and how's the market changing and the ratings, and how do the listening patterns of the people and time spent listening. And now it's just time to just talk to one of the greatest artists who can speak to just how important radio is, because we don't have a lot of artists, so it's a blessing to have one of these people who was there for the past 30, I'd say 30, 35. I ain't gonna put no age on you. Let me back to y'all. I don't even want to look backstage. This person has been around for a long time, and their career has grown into so many different facets, from being a book author to being an entrepreneur to being a philanthropist. But when we first knew this person, it was for their raps. And they went on to be one of the first women, the first woman with the solo rap album, the first woman with a gold single, and so many, many more things. It's my pleasure to reintroduce you all to MC Lyte.
I am the Lyte.
MC Lyte.
L-Y-T-E.
Lyricist, DJ, icon, radio show host, speaker, philanthropist, and entrepreneur. Describes one of the most prolific and well-respected female hip-hop artists of our time.
We've applauded her as men in hip-hop.
And there's nothing that can replace women when they spit in rhymes in hip-hop.
She's always had that consistent message of empowering women.
She is truly an icon in hip-hop.
And she's still got a great voice. You hear her many times. She is a voice on many award shows.
Yeah.
MC Lyte has been the voice of several national commercial campaigns and has been the voice of the BET Awards.
Please welcome the most valuable players from the game. Megan Good, Pooch Hall, and Hosea Chanchez.
MC Lyte is determined to make a positive change in the way young black boys and girls think about themselves.
I always wanted to leave them with a lasting impression of inspiration and what it is now that they can do to further their mission in getting closer to their goals and their dreams.
After 10 albums and 5 #1 hits, MC Lyte is a mogul in the making. A true hip-hop legend, philanthropist, actress, and voiceover artist.
Like the title of her book, MC Lyte is Unstoppable.
L-Y-T-E.
MC Lyte, everybody.
Good. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Now, everything that we just saw,
Yes.
which I don't even think covers everything, but it is a fair, for the sake of time, summation of your arc. That started with, and this wasn't the first show, but I read somewhere that the first time you were paid to perform, the first time you got a check, $75.
Yeah.
$75. Now, at a time where there weren't nearly as many women within your craft as there are now, what kept you going during that time when there's so many different issues? Like when we talk about sexism and discrimination, much more prevalent, and our IQ as a society was far lower with that. What kept you climbing over every wall that was put in front of you in those early days?
Well, first off, thank you so much for that question. I just want to say good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. Dr. Benjamin Chavis, always show love and respect and adoration whenever we are in the same place, because I value you. Thank you. So I didn't know. I was 16 getting into this thing. So I was totally unaware. It wasn't until I got older when people would say, well, how difficult was it? And I was like, well, it wasn't difficult for me at all. It may have been difficult for my managers and for the record label to prove, like, what is she worth to pay her the same amount that they're paying the guys, or, all of the things that would say that I was actually equal. Making $75, that was great. I actually had a job prior to getting signed. So I was kind of making my own money anyway. I worked at Chi-Chi's Mexican restaurant as a a hostess.
Stacking bread.
Yeah, so I had a little check that I was bringing home, but the $75 meant so much because I was actually doing something I would have done for free, which was rapping on stage. So when you talk about, the misogyny and sexism, and I was completely unaware of that at that age.
Everyone in this room has a different walk, but I believe the thread that connects most everybody in this room is that at some point you have been second guessed, you have been doubted, and it is either blatantly or they doubt you through the way they pay you and the way that they treat you after they hire you. And also everybody in this room at some point has had a breakthrough where you don't have to deal with that type of stuff anymore. In your sphere, and you can pick any mile marker through your career, do you hold grudges from the people that doubted you? And if not, how did you get past that? How did you
Right.
get through that to keep that from polluting your progress going forward?
Okay, so my initial reaction is a grudge for what? I'm one of those that really believes you can't burn a bridge. I've seen people throughout this business move in positions where exactly you wind up being sore or out of sorts with someone, and then 2 years later you need something done and you're walking right into that person's office. So the key is everybody has a point. For me, as I look out at all of the people that do all of these positions that can either make or break, help or not help an artist, is they've got lives too that they're going through every day. There's challenges that they have to meet. There's family matters and all of those other things. So I don't take anything to heart. When someone tells me no, they just don't know what I'm capable of. And so I just persevere and see past their short seeing, because if they can't see what I see, I can't blame them. I just have to really show them in the physical form.
When we talk about, we spoke earlier, someone else spoke earlier on an earlier panel about the relationship between artists and the radio station. Now, we could argue in the 80s and 90s that was the record label's responsibility to a degree to help foster that and to, hey, you need to go in and do this show. This person got the #1 rated, blah, 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 blah. Whereas now a lot of artists will lean in on using streams and everything digitally to justify that they don't need radio. Why does radio still matter to you in terms of developing new artists?
Well, first off, I understand the relationship, and you're absolutely right. The record label did foster that. I remember, going on radio tours where we would go in and meet all of the people at the radio station, the PD, the MD, and all of the DJs and everybody. And then we'd meet the local club owner, and we'd go to the club and we'd go eat at the local restaurant. It gave all of us a chance who were, in my case, being from Brooklyn, New York, it gave me a chance to envelop all the different cultures from around the nation, which I thought was really important, and I find value in that. Today, there are so many things, be it streaming, technology, there are all sorts of touch points that really create connectivity between people that have been eliminated or omitted or impeded upon. And so for me, it's all about how can I get to know someone as a person and then find that commonality of what it is that we like and what we don't. And there's a touch point for us all in here with music. You may not like everything that I like, but there's somebody that I like that you like, and there's probably a few artists that we can agree upon. Today, I think in order for a young artist to see so much success in the streaming world, it would have to come from a place like the record label for them to understand the importance of radio. If not, then it's just the importance of what radio did as a past tense. It has to be something current in their lives now that says how important it still is, and I think the people that have the power to do that is record labels.
Okay, so then to that point, who helped you early on understand that? Was it your label, or
Yeah,
were you able was it artist? Was it an A&R person? Like
right.
who helped a young MC like understand? Hey, you need to go by you need to go by this party. You need to say hello
It
to this
was
person.
Sylvia Roan and it was Richard Nash. And yes, Richard Nash broke my record. See, that's another thing. I don't know that artists necessarily understand all of the specifics that happen at a record label and who's responsible for what, if they've ever shake their hands, if they've ever broke bread with the people that are responsible for their level of success or not. I don't know that. I know a friend of mine who has a publishing deal and he doesn't know the people that do his publishing. So he'll send an email off to the a big publishing company, and he makes jokes. Well, I think the interns are looking at it. I don't know, but the truth is, there's no
He need to pull up.
person. Yeah, I mean, they are getting the job done, but it's without knowing the person. And so when you have younger people coming into the game and that's the only thing that they've experienced, I don't know that they find value in taking the time to get to know the people that are actually responsible for hiring the director to do your video, responsible for the radio show that you're gonna go do the super jam or whatever it is that's happening. Do you even know the people at the station outside of the DJs that interview them?
Promotions.
Yeah, so
promotion
I
street
would
team.
say it was definitely the record label. It was Sylvia and Richard.
What did it feel like? Like as a comedian, I have no context for this because with comedy, most first moments you exist within it. So, like, say you do late night, you do some late night show. You're in the moment and experiencing the moment. What is it like to hear your voice on the radio for the first time? What was that like? Like when you finally heard, you talk about a record being
Right,
broken.
right.
You remember where you were.
Yeah, I was in my bedroom and I had one of those big boom boxes and I was listening to Chuck Chill Out on 98.7 Kiss FM. And he was actually, I couldn't call him a friend. I used to stalk him, is what I did. In the very beginning of my wanting a career, I would see him at the local club at with Paradise and Latin Quarters. And I would say, when I get this record, I'm gonna need you to play it. Yeah, whatever is what he would say to me. And then once I had the record, he should have never gave me his number. Because I was calling him like, when you gonna play it? When you gonna play it? When you gonna play it? And then finally, he wound up playing it. It was either Friday or Saturday, because that was what it was limited to, hip hop at that time. And he played it, and I was by myself, but I just felt extremely content, like I had really accomplished something. But then it broke way for a whole lot of other things that I wanted to do. Okay, so now the record is played, now I gotta do a video. Now the video gotta get played, now I gotta go on tour. Now I gotta sell records, now I gotta,
Now you gotta
it
do the
just
album.
increases, right?
What was that experience like then? Like as you start getting out on the road, describe to me were there differences in approaches with particular DJs in particular regions in terms of trying to get your stuff played and building those relationships? Because I would imagine at least that the way you step to a New York DJ ain't the same way that you could step to, like if you're playing a show in Chicago and you need to get with this, that, and the third guy.
Well,
you in
I
Atlanta.
am not stepping to anybody. I'll let you know that, because it's a real, it's a real world out there in terms of who it is that is most effective for the duration. I don't need you to play my record once. And that's what would happen if I say to somebody, come on, man, you gonna play this record? And they play it once. There is a system and a business behind music and how it gets played on the radio. And even at that time, it was still a system. And so, no, I let the record label handle that part. I do remember before the major record label, I remember all of us artists at the office licking big old nasty yellow manila envelopes with putting records in them and sending them off to wherever we thought they were going to get to. I remember also my manager hiring independent radio promotion people. And I remember we gave him a bunch of records and he was going out west. And at 17, 18, I'm like, going out west, what the hell does that mean? And how will we know if it ever reached where it was supposed to go? And, not too long after, K-Day from Los Angeles called and said, we need to have Lyte out here with Cha Cha Cha. So we knew that he had gotten that record where he said that he was going to get it.
Yeah, that's the old days where you could call him. Where you
On
at?
a horse or something
Yeah.
out west. I'm like,
I could tell you in L.A. that brother's somewhere in Jersey spending your money.
right.
How was the pivot? I believe that all artists, I believe that we find an entry point into entertaining and into sharing a piece of ourselves with people. And we do that thing for a while. And then that gives us the confidence, the capital, the connections that we need to do all of the other things that I don't want to say that we really want to do or that we enjoy, but of everything that's in your portfolio now, is there any one thing that you enjoy more than the others?
I don't know. I enjoy them for different reasons, right? So you are exactly right. It's not that it's things that you want to do more, but it's all of the things that you wanted to do. So I wanted to act before I wanted to rap. I wanted to be on radio. I wanted to use my voice in some capacity because I heard Carol Ford on Kiss, and I heard the heaviness of her voice and said, "Ooh, that kind of sounds like the women in my family. Like I want to do that." And so I think hip hop just gave me an opportunity to be able to do all of those things. So I enjoy performing because it's a call and response. It's what, watching theater as a kid, I was able to react to something that I was seeing in real time, and that is what satiates me on stage when I'm performing. Acting, I love the world of imagination and make believe, and that's what I get to become a part of when I act. So I enjoy that as well. Giving, philanthropy, I enjoy it because I love to see the look on kids' faces when they receive a scholarship to attend school. So I enjoy it all. I'm just so blessed to be able to do an array of things that make me happy on any given day. Is something different, so it never gets mundane. And yeah, I enjoy it all.
It's so beautiful to see, especially when I see like with the philanthropy side of it, which is a goal for myself. But I don't know if I can give kids money to go to school without following up to see what them grades looking like.
No, we do that
I know
too.
you ain't supposed to do that. You're supposed to just give them the money.
Right, no, we do that too. Like every semester they have to meet, their GPA has to be at a certain space in order to get the next year's tuition taken care of.
Nice. So you wanted to do voice work. Did you imagine yourself becoming the voice of so many iconic brands? Because I will say this with the utmost of respect. I can be in another room and tell when it's an MC Lyte commercial. I don't know if any of y'all are like that, but I can just tell it's you and Keith David for the Navy. U.S. Navy. Like that, brother. I can't even hit that register. But did you ever imagine that it would soar to this point in having these relationships with brands?
No, but I never thought it wouldn't happen. So I said, let me just go in and take it day by day, which, by the way, Malcolm Jamal Warner is the person who introduced me to my first voiceover agent. And that agent really set the tone for all of the brands that I work with. Because funny enough, I've worked with a lot of brands in the 90s, and now I'm working with those same brands again. But he was the one that, started started up my voiceover career for me.
So, we're talking McDonald's, we're talking Coca-Cola, and then we get into the TV voiceover work with VH1 and BET, of course. What advice would you give? Because if we're talking talent within radio now, as shifts tend to get longer, staff is getting thinner, more on-air talent are having to carry more of the spots and the sponsorships and all of that stuff. What would you say is the best thing that you've been able to do to help you foster a good relationship with the sponsors that you do work with?
Well,
that would translate to the terrestrial level for the talent that's hired by the people in the
right. Unfortunately, in most cases, I'm working with the agency. I'm working with the commercial agent or the advertising agency. So, once in a blue, I might meet the person who hired the agency. But it's really the youth and the knowledge of the agency that says, this is what MC Lyte's voice speaks to. And so they're the ones that are actually advising the client.
Okay. Matter of fact, let's roll two of those spots so we can hear that wonderful gravitas of MC Lyte.
I'm MC Lyte for Hip Hop Heritage, celebrating 50 years of hip hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. Wow. Reflecting on my life in hip hop, first off, as one of the early female MCs, I knew I had to be twice as nice as the male rappers out. Flow, style, voice, conviction. Lyrically, I had to double down on everything I delivered if I was going to get my respect. And I'm from Brooklyn, so you best believe I was going to take it. Hip hop is everything. It's not just music, it's culture, it's fashion. It's the way you move. It's swag. It's hip hop heritage, brought to you by Cadillac.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
MC Lyte for AARP. Hip hop, the cultural phenomenon that took New York by storm in 1973, is celebrating 50 years of rocking mics and crowds. Whether you're a ride or die hip hop head or simply curious about its origins, check out the latest issue of AARP the magazine. It celebrates this incredible milestone with a featured story brimming with fun hip hop facts and history. Head over to aarp.org/black community to learn more.
Community is more than where you live. It's the people in it who go above and beyond to help it thrive. During the 50th anniversary of hip hop and the 75th anniversary of Black Radio, AARP recognizes the members, volunteers, people, and partners giving back to our communities. We believe when our efforts drive change for the greater good, we all thrive together. To learn more about how AARP supports efforts to keep our communities thriving, visit aarp.org/black community.
Right on the 60 seconds. That was a good production. I could tell that one was 63, and then you slid the time, pinched down. I heard a little speed up right in the middle, right there. Yeah, the producer ear, they know. What do you think that radio stations, in terms of artist relations, what do you think that radio stations, black radio stations specifically, what do you think that they miss with regards to artist engagement? Or is it strictly now, if we're talking present day, is it strictly artists now being ignorant to the worth of radio because of the lack of corporate guidance?
And corporate guidance, you mean record labels?
Correct.
Right. Yeah, I think that the record label is the missing piece, I believe, to that relationship being stronger or not, because there is value to be had there. But a lot of times with younger artists, if they're seeing success in other ways, it doesn't dawn on them. They actually have to be taught that this is a space in which you can make a difference.
It's difficult because it's not necessarily on the radio station to go out and find, like, if I could use Birmingham for an example, Birmingham with Cox Radio at the time. This is it's 0102. We did not break a lot of local artists, like Birmingham-based artists. Maybe one or two Alabama-based artists here and there, but not until they got spins in Atlanta or Memphis or somewhere else. Is there a world for radio to attempt to be that bridge, to fill that gap that the record label has voided in an effort to kind of bring in music again as something that...
Yes. I mean, while you were talking, I was just thinking, okay, so all is not lost. It's not like radio is akin to, a photography spot where people used to go take their film to have developed.
1 hour photo.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not that, which has totally been obliterated. This is about now finding what is it that we have to offer. What does radio have to offer to this new climate of musician and music that they cannot get anywhere else? And to me, that's a tie-in locally. That's a local experience. But because, lots of radio has become this one big old thing, there hasn't been, outside of the local radio stations that are truly local, that can serve the community and speak on topics that are happening, and giving local news, which I believe the larger radio stations give a certain amount of time of
It's
that
a little
per
real estate,
day.
but,
Right. But, that can be felt as well. It's like, oh, okay, this is the one little corner that deals with us in this particular town. So I just think when it comes to this new regime of artists, they have to feel what is it worth? And it's not just an artist, it's people in general. Younger people are just different. And they want to be shown, like you can't just tell them something. They want to see, and they're looking to dissect it themselves to see what is this worth to me. And at one point, record labels really, really needed radio. And so it was their job and to their benefit to foster that relationship between the artist and the radio. But now, do they feel as though they need radio as much? Maybe this is the reflection of what it means now that we have other means to promote our artists.
Okay, so then to that point, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that record labels chase that which is like entertainment to that regard used to be, I think you're talented, let me help you find your audience, join me. And I think now the pitch is, hey, it seems like you have an audience, join me. So the moment you lose your audience, the record label shuns you away and moves on to the next one. So the actual nurturing of an artist from year 1 to year 3 doesn't necessarily happen. So how does the label, is there a way for radio to get the labels to understand, stop chasing these flash in the pan, it's not even SoundCloud anymore, whatever the kids are using now, but why are you chasing whoever has the hottest 30-second trend on TikTok when you know that traditionally, based on the previous people that you've signed, when you found based on the same metrics, they did not pop? More often than not, most artists don't pop. And if you continue to fish from the same pond, is there a way for radio to convince a label to, hey, slow it down and put these careers in a crock pot instead of a microwave?
Right.
I'm from the South. I like to eat.
No, I get it. I get the food analogy. This is a much bigger conversation because I think lots of times most record labels have really done away with the A&R team, with the team that is really going to go out there, find that artist, and do the development that's necessary to make a Beyonce, to make a Mary J, to make, and I don't need to say all of the artists prior to them, but those are like our last superstars that can fill, arenas, and that's not to discount Rihanna. I just think we're talking about black radio, And although she's done lots of, R&B songs, she is considered a pop sensation. So when I'm talking about the A&R that needs to be put in, I don't know that they will give the time for it. I don't know that they have the interest in it. It's all about acquisitions now at this point. And it was a little bit back in the day as well. They went around and ate up all of the little independent record labels. But at this juncture, I feel like they think it's much easier to grab up that audience of so-and-so. They're already doing it. Come do it with us so we can make some money off of you, give you some more money to keep doing what you're doing. It's not a lot of new thought.
Not a lot at all. Now, let's talk a little bit about your management company and what you do on that side with regards to production and helping other creatives along their path.
Yes, we sort of are spread across the entertainment diaspora, so to speak.
Full service entertainment management.
Yeah, but I mean in terms of our clients. So we have writers, we have stylists, we have actors, DJs. And for me, it's really all about helping them to achieve what it is that they want. Lots of times people can look at you and say, oh, this is the thing that's missing if you just do this. And we're not that. We're about where it is that you want to be and what are your goals and how is it that we can help you to achieve those. We're spending quite a bit of quality time on production development of new TV shows and films. And so we'll have a new slate of projects coming in 2024, which we're completely excited about. But yeah, it's one of the things that I've wanted to do all my life. I had a management company back in '92, and I managed a group that, this is so funny. Well, we managed 3 groups. We had Lynn Q, who used to be with X-Clan. We had her with Elektra Records. We had another group called Born in Hell on Select Records. And at one point, Born in Hell said, we don't want to be here anymore. And they're giving too much attention to Kid and Play. I was like, okay, what do you want to do? You want to get released? They don't release you from labels. So I go to Fred at Select and I go, they don't want to be here anymore. He says, okay. And then we went to Wendy Cradle, who was over at MCA, and she signed them. And they still didn't deliver a record. But for all of the mishaps, it never stirred me away from wanting to be in management. It's one of the things that I really enjoy. And just as much as I enjoy TV and film and voiceover and performing. So I'm glad that I get the chance to do all of it. But it is different. Every realm that I step into, it's somewhat of an imaginary box that says, no, you do that. What are you doing over here?
Yes.
And then I got to kick one of the lines in from the 4 walls, kick one of the walls down and go, I'm here anyway, now what? So it's all about proving yourself and showing that you can do something that they don't think you can't.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, you can give a round of applause for that.
Thank you.
And I will be sending over numerous scripts to your production company shortly. We're going to open it up for questions. We're going to finish strong with some questions. I'm sure there's plenty of questions. We have 2 microphones floating, so we'll have the microphones make their way across the room. We'll start over here.
Tomas Regalado, VP for Spanish Broadcasting. First of all, congratulations. You are a true artist.
Thank you.
And second of all, going back to what you guys were talking about, I think COVID showed artists and showed everybody that radio is still a powerhouse, that people wanted to hear that voice. And I think that artists are now realizing that TikTok is not the only way of going, that they have to go back to radio. Wouldn't you agree on that one?
He's talking to me, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense to me that during that whole time of the pandemic, it felt good to turn on radio and hear that voice. that whether it was a familiar voice of a radio jock that you've been hearing for years and you felt some sort of safety or some kindred spirit that felt good. I don't know if the younger generation is aware of that. I haven't had a conversation with any of them to see if they felt the same thing that we may have felt or that I may have felt. As a matter of fact, I've never had this conversation with anyone about how radio and social media served as a friend or someone that you could listen to. And there were TV shows that I would tune into, like My Wife and Kids, and things that just made me feel good, and a yesterday that I could bring into today that made me feel safe. But I hope so.
You know what I also think about COVID with regards to radio is that COVID made what was happening between the songs more important and more relevant. And, when you look at a lot of people that have made the graduation, if we're talking about, again, in the earlier session, the name Amanda Seales came up, the name Tasha K came up. I would add Just Hilarious to that. And those are three people that were doing what they're doing now terrestrially. Well, they're trying to get Tasha in the radio, but what they're doing now terrestrially, they were doing at the crib with Wi-Fi and an iPhone. Amanda Seales has always been talented, but when we all got set, when we all had to sit still for a year and a half, you go, well, what is interesting to me? What do I want to talk about? And you built an audience because you had people that were captive, and I would argue that COVID for sure, definitely, I can't speak to how much it changed music, but it definitely changed the relationship between jocks and the listener. And I think PDs have to start looking at their talent as someone that can engage people around the clock, off the clock. Like you ain't just on air. You don't have a shift no more. You are you, and then for 4 hours a day, I pay you to be you. Like, does that make okay? Not 4 hours. All right, 5-hour shifts now. Okay, I understand. The game is changing. Who else? Any other questions?
Right here. So I want to just say that it is my honor to be here with you, celebrating the 50 years of hip hop. I was one of the first hip hop on-air personalities in 1987 in San Francisco at KPOO. I just want to represent, first of all, and say that today I own my own multimedia nonprofit organization because I am now speaking for Mayor London Breed in San Francisco and marketing and branding for them. I found my niche, and I'm finally making the money that I deserve. So,
amen.
The process, it's been a long process for us women, but here I am at 58, gray hairs and all, whatever. That's right. But
Fabulous.
I'm here, I'm still here, and you're still here. So now that we know so much more about the business, and you're on the management side, and I'm on the ownership side, managing all that, what is it that you can say is still a problem for us? I would say that it's in our creation. When we create stuff, we still want to run to them and give it away. So we lose control of it all over again. It's like a vicious cycle. We want ownership to be able to tell the stories and provide the platforms, but then we sell our stuff. The artists sell their music. They sell their short films. And we, as owners with platforms, don't ever get a chance to display it and share it with our local audiences because artists are so quick to give it up. Black people are so quick to give it up and take a quick couple of bucks, and it's gone forever. The publishing, we have no access. So can you speak to the copywriting, the intellectual property barriers that we create for ourselves?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I don't want to belabor us with another problem, right? We all know that what it is that you're talking about is real. What I will say is, unfortunately and fortunately, everybody has their price. Some people make a creation to be sold. Some people make a creation to hold on forever to and put it in their library and be able to license the IP and so on and so forth. So I can't, blame anyone for however it is that they choose to do their business. I do see the value in ownership, in holding on to what it is that you have. So I think it's to each his own. I will say that I just acquired my name, MC Lyte, back last year, or maybe the year before last. Yeah. I think what people don't realize, well, I'm sure they're starting to, new artists as they come into the business, your name belongs to the record label. And I think for some time it was swimming out there, and it was actually a Caucasian guy out in Europe going by the name of Lyte. And so once I understood that he had it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. The record label gave it up. Now I got to get in there and swim and try to fight for my own name, because I did want to own it and I deserve to own it. So in those cases, yes, a fight is necessary. I just did a short, my first directorial debut, and I was offered something from a streaming service to buy in and license it to show. And for one reason or another, it didn't work out contractually, but I would have loved an opportunity like that, and maybe I would have gotten it back after a few years and licensed it out to somewhere else. So the IP is very important. I think when you have, unlimited funds, you can hold on to things. But when folks are looking for a product and you have one to be sold, many times over, you'll do the transaction, because that's pretty much what business is. Yeah.
So I'm contracted with the mayor of San Francisco under the Dreamkeeper Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making 6 figures for the first time in my.
So you're going to keep your IP.
And I'm giving them a non-exclusive agreement.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, and hooking up with the right legal team so that they know what to push the envelope on.
Absolutely. We got time for one more. We got time for one more question, right here.
It's not a question. It's just acknowledgement. Like in those two commercials, one for General Motors. What I wanted to say was to say thank you, and for you to know the impact of what your work is having on African American owned radio stations. And the reason why I think you should know that is when you get an assignment, to your point, you said you're working through the agency, and when we sat down with AARP and we sat down with General Motors, Spot said, they're here, Howard and team, are they back there? Howard, stand. But it began with a commitment from major advertisers saying they, particularly with this year being the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and with some of the others doing, to say, we want to be intentional about how we connect with the African American marketplace, and having partners like Spot Set and others who are intentional about tapping your talent and utilizing you as the spokesperson for those campaigns. And what you should know is that, Howard, those campaigns, the feedback from both GM and AARP was just over the top, right? Outstanding. So that's the impact you're having, but more importantly, it's the dollars. Those represent real dollars that are going to African American owned radio stations across the country. So thank you for the impact of your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, they cracked the doors, and I'm looking out there, and I'm seeing food set up, I'm seeing alcohol set up, so I think this is a good place to end. We're going to have a DJ, and we're going to have a little bit of fun and mingle and relax and kick back. You all, one more time for MC Lyte, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. We'll see y'all out there. All right, pitch.